Pursuit is about a man, and he thinks that his ex-wives are following him. He has 3 ex-wives. In subsequent days, driving, I have had a great deal of time to consider my actions. In one respect, I was correct to remain in ignorance, to avoid precipitating myself into a difficult situation. Yet in another aspect, had I opened that door, I would at least know what was on the other side, might at least have some vague sense of why I am now being pursued. As it stands, my first ex-wife, like Schrodinger's famous and long-suffering cat, seems a creature flickering between life and death, neither alive nor dead, which is to say at once both alive and dead. She is the worst kind of ghost. Would it help if I were to swear to you by the deceased individual of your choice that I had nothing to do with my first ex-wife's demise, assuming she is in fact dead? No. It would not help, because you do not exist. I am speaking only to myself. I am speaking all alone. So he gets in his car to go see his 3rd ex-wife, and then he feels that he's being followed by his 2nd ex-wife. And so he starts to try to lose that car. And in fact, he's so afraid that he's being pursued that he doesn't stop driving. And he never goes back to his own house because he doesn't want to be followed to his house. So he just keeps driving, and he stops occasionally to eat something, to use the toilet, but he just keeps driving. He doesn't bathe. At a certain point, he's even sitting in the car and he smells something, and he's like, "What's that stink?" And he actually realizes that it's himself. Yeah, this is from that too. There is in every event, whether lived or told, always a hole or a gap, often more than one. If we allow ourselves to get caught in it, we find it opening into a void that once we have slipped into it, we can never escape. Because in fact, you can, these 2 sentences actually fit almost all of his writing. There is, in every event, whether lived or told, always a hole or a gap, often more than one. If we allow ourselves to get caught in it, we find it opening onto a void that once we have slipped into it, we can never escape. Strip all the blankets off their beds. Gathering them up as best they could, they carried them out of their rooms and down the narrow hall to drop them in a heap in the living room.
Try after.
In the late afternoons after school, in the days just after their father had left their mother, the 2 girls would strip all the blankets off their beds. Gathering them up as best they could, they carried them out of their rooms and down the narrow hall to drop them in a heap in the living room. They tucked blanket edges under couch cushions or put them on furniture with encyclopedias piled on them. And then stretched the blankets from couch to chair or from chair to window ledge. When done, they had a series of tents. All overlapping, the living room became a series of billows and dips under which they could crouch. Younger. This is a story about 2 sisters, an older sister and a younger sister. And they wake up one morning and get ready to go to school, and their mother isn't there. He's taken her somewhere in the night, and the father is there sitting on the couch, and he hasn't slept or bathed, and his eyes are red, and he says, "I have to go out and do something. So I need you girls to stay here, and I'm going to set the buzzer on the stove. When the buzzer goes off, you go to school. And no matter what happens, whatever you do, if somebody rings at the door, you don't answer it. So then the father leaves, and the girls, they start to play. And in their play, it feels like it feels completely different than it's ever felt before, because they're totally alone. There's no adults, it's just the two girls. And they play Mustangs with plastic horses, and then they also make them turn themselves into Mustangs and put rubber bands around their faces for bridles, and plastic bags on their knees for shoes, and they become part of the pack of Mustangs, only it's not a pack, it's a herd. At first the cave was just the space under the couch, but the Mustang wasn't getting better. So the younger sister stuck him in her armpit and called that a cave, and held her arm clamped to her side. And when later she reached him back out, the blood had smeared off all over inside the cave, and the horse was miraculously healed and allowed to return to the pack. "It's not called a pack," her older sister told her over the telephone. "It's a herd." But the younger sister knew they had called it a pack, and that anything could happen, and that pack was part of it too. They had known at the time it was herd, but they had called it a pack, and they had said it wrong on purpose. They were building a whole world up around them, full of things more vivid and slippery than anything the real world could offer. The night sky seemed to roll back, showing a huge blood, dusky presence looming, awaiting its moment. The scroll of the night sky seemed to roll back. The scroll